Welcome to AETB News. In the next 30 seconds, we're breaking down the stories shaking America. President Trump has just unleashed a torrent of new tariffs, hitting allies and rivals alike. Brazil is facing a staggering 50% rate. Is this a masterstroke for American jobs or a reckless gamble pushing us toward a global trade war? At the same time, the White House is bringing back the controversial presidential fitness test. But the choice of guests at the announcement, including a registered sex offender, is raising serious questions. And from the bizarre to the truly baffling, a famed lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, is threatening a lawsuit over pierogies. We have the data, the inside sources, and the full story behind these headlines. Stay with us and subscribe to AETB News as we uncover the truth. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It's been a whirlwind week of policy shifts, political theater, and public disputes that touch every corner of American life, from our economy to our schools and even our summer vacation spots. We begin tonight with a story of significant economic consequence: President Trump's sweeping new tariff regime. Part 1. The Tariff Tsunami. On August 1st, the Trump administration enacted one of the most aggressive and widespread tariff packages in recent memory. This isn't a targeted action against a single competitor. It's a broadside involving nearly 70 countries. The White House has framed this as a necessary measure to correct unfair trade imbalances, protect American industries, and fulfill the promise of bringing manufacturing jobs back to U.S. soil. The core argument is simple. For too long, other nations have benefited from high tariffs on American goods, while enjoying low tariff access to the U.S. market. This move, they claim, levels the playing field. Let's look at the specifics. Brazil has been hit with a punitive 50% tariff. The administration has explicitly linked this to the prosecution of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, a Trump ally, for attempting a coup. This suggests the tariffs are being wielded not just as an economic tool, but as a political weapon to punish actions the administration disagrees with. This is a significant departure from traditional trade policy, where tariffs are typically linked to economic practices, not the internal judicial affairs of another sovereign nation. Then there's India, now facing a 25% tariff. The justification here is twofold: high Indian tariffs on U.S. products and India's continued purchase of military equipment and oil from Russia. The administration argues that by financing Russia's military-industrial complex, India is indirectly working against U.S. foreign policy objectives, particularly concerning the war in Ukraine. This move places significant pressure on the delicate U.S.-India trade relationship, which has been growing in recent years as a strategic counterweight in the Indo-Pacific. Other nations haven't been spared. Canada faces a 35% rate. Switzerland 39%, and a host of others see new duties ranging from 10% to 40%. The European Union and South Korea managed to negotiate deals for reduced rates, while Mexico has secured a 90-day reprieve to continue discussions. The White House message is clear: negotiate on our terms or face the consequences. However, economists are divided. Proponents believe this hardball tactic will force countries to lower their own trade barriers and create a more favorable environment for American exports. They point to potential revenue gains that could help offset the national deficit. But the majority of economists warn of severe repercussions. They argue that these tariffs are essentially a tax on American consumers and businesses. U.S. companies that rely on imported materials will see their costs skyrocket, and those costs will inevitably be passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices for everyday goods. This could fuel inflation and slow down the U.S. economy. Furthermore, there is the near certainty of retaliatory tariffs from the affected nations, which would harm American exporters, especially in the agricultural and manufacturing sectors, by making their products more expensive and less competitive overseas. The question remains: is this a bold strategy for American prosperity or a high-stakes gamble that could destabilize the global economy?
Part 2. Fitness, Politics, and Controversy. From the world of international trade, we turn to the domestic front and a new initiative aimed at America's youth. President Trump has signed an executive order reviving the Presidential Fitness Test, a program that was a staple in American schools from 1966 until it was phased out in 2012 under the Obama administration. The original test was a competitive performance-based assessment measuring students on exercises like pull-ups, sit-ups, and a timed 1-mile run. The goal was to promote physical fitness and a spirit of competition. The Obama-era program shifted the focus to individual health metrics and personal goals rather than national rankings. The Trump administration, with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at the helm of the revived program, is bringing back the old-school competitive model, arguing it will instill discipline and excellence and combat what they call a widespread epidemic of declining health and physical fitness among American children. On the surface, a push for healthier kids seems laudable. However, the announcement event itself has drawn significant criticism and overshadowed the policy's intent. Sharing the stage with the president were several high-profile athletes, including Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker and former New York Giants linebacker Lawrence Taylor. The presence of these two figures has been particularly controversial. Harrison Butker has recently been in the headlines for comments widely seen as dismissive of women's professional aspirations and critical of Pride Month. But it's the inclusion of Lawrence Taylor that has sparked the most outrage. Taylor, a celebrated football legend, is also a registered sex offender. For an event centered on the well-being of school children, the choice to feature a registered sex offender as a role model has been described by critics as a stunning lack of judgment. It raises serious questions about the vetting process and the message the White House intends to send. Supporters might argue that Taylor has paid his debt to society and that his athletic achievements are what's being celebrated. But for many parents and child safety advocates, the symbolism is deeply troubling. It has turned a policy announcement about physical fitness into a heated debate about values, judgment, and the individuals chosen to represent a national initiative for children. Part 3. The Panama Playlists and a Pierogi Problem. And finally, we move to two stories that, while seemingly less consequential, reveal much about our current cultural and political climate. First, the so-called Panama Playlists. An anonymous website claims to have hacked and released the Spotify listening histories of numerous politicians and celebrities. While the breach itself is a serious matter of digital privacy, the revelations have been more quirky than scandalous. For instance, the leak alleges that Vice President J.D. Vance is a fan of the Backstreet Boys. It also claims that OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, a leader in the AI revolution, frequently listens to Missy Elliott's Get Your Freak On. The report is more of a curious footnote in the age of digital oversharing than a bombshell, but it serves as a reminder that in our hyper-connected world, no detail, not even our private musical tastes, is truly safe from public exposure. But the story that has truly captured the public's imagination this week comes from the idyllic shores of Martha's Vineyard. Famed and controversial defense attorney Alan Dershowitz, known for representing high-profile clients like O.J. Simpson, Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump, has threatened legal action against a local food vendor. The reason? They refused to sell him pierogies. According to Dershowitz, a vendor at the West Tisbury Farmers Market from a stand called Good Pierogi denied him service, explicitly stating it was due to his politics. Dershowitz claims this is an act of illegal discrimination and has stated he will sue. The incident, which reportedly involved police being called to the scene, has quickly become a flashpoint in the ongoing debate about cancel culture and freedom of commerce. Dershowitz argues that vendors should not be allowed to deny service based on a customer's political beliefs. His critics, however, are quick to point out that political affiliation is not a protected class in the same way as race or religion. They argue that a private business owner should have the right to refuse service to anyone, especially when that person's public profile is tied to some of the most divisive legal cases of our time. For years, Dershowitz has complained about being shunned by the liberal elite on Martha's Vineyard. This Pierogi gate has become the latest and perhaps most unusual chapter in that saga. It's a story that is, at its heart, more than just about potato dumplings. It's about where we draw the lines of association, protest, and commerce in a deeply polarized America. Tariffs that could reshape our economy, a fitness test clouded by controversy, and a Pierogi dispute that speaks volumes about our divided nation. These are the stories of our time, and AETB News will continue to follow every development. Thank you for watching.